Good morning, everybody. So in today's video, we're going to take this bowl of apples here and we're going to turn it into some apple chutney. I decided to use an Ina Garten recipe, so that's what we're doing in today's video. In Ina Garten's recipe, she says to use about 6 Granny Smith apples. I have way more than 6 apples here, so I do end up, I think I triple this recipe. So keep that in mind when you're watching the measurements that I'm using. I'm pretty sure I do end up tripling this recipe. So I'm not using Granny Smith apples. These are what I had on hand. These needed to be used up, so I decided to try an apple chutney recipe. I've wanted to try a chutney for a really long time, and this recipe is really good. I think the Granny Smith apples are supposed to give it a tart flavor along with the vinegar. I think these apples here that I'm using are ambrosia apples, so they're a little bit of a sweeter apple. The recipe still turned out perfectly good. The recipe is actually one of the most delicious chutneys I've ever had in my life. It's pretty good. So you just want to start with coring and peeling all the apples. And you want to dice them fairly small, but I think it also depends on how chunky you want your chutney to be. For me, I wanted the pieces to be fairly small, so I do end up using a chopper. To prevent your apples from browning, you want to use some water with some lemon juice. This will help your apples stay nice and nice color without turning brown before you get to chop them up. I really like this brand of lemon juice. It's an organic lemon juice and it works really well. I like to use it for canning. So I'm going to take the rest of these apples here and I'm going to peel them off camera. After all the peeling, this is the amount of apples I got. Lots of peels. I wish I had a compost. So now I'm going to use this chopper. I got this chopper on Amazon and it works fabulous. It has a couple different settings, different sizes you can chop. This is on the finest setting. I wanted a really nice fine dice to the apples. So I'm just going to go along and dice all these apples. I like using the chopper when I'm using a large amount of something that I have to chop and dice. I usually use this chopper a lot when I have like big bags of onions and peppers. It makes the job a lot faster. I like to dice up my onions ahead of time and then put them in the freezer. It's very convenient. So I usually pull out the chopper for that. Like I was saying earlier in the video, I didn't measure out the apples. I looked like I had about enough for about 3 recipes worth. So that's what I end up doing for the recipe. I just tripled the recipe. So I'm just continuing to chop up the apples here and make sure I have enough for the recipe. The next ingredient is 1 cup of chopped yellow onion. I do equivalent to, I think I did a tiny bit less because I did triple this recipe and I didn't want it to be too oniony. So I think I just do these 3 onions here and dice them up and put them in the recipe. I do dice the onion with the chopper just because I wanted the onion to be around the same size as the apple. All of the peels from my onions I do keep. Any scraps that I have from like carrots or onions or celery or vegetables like peppers or anything like that, I keep them all and use them in my chicken stock. So I usually have a Ziploc bag that I put them in and keep them in my freezer until I'm ready to make stock. This kitchen chopper is such a lifesaver sometimes, especially when I'm doing big projects. It saves so much time, especially when I've got like a really large amount of something to chop up. It's one of my favorite kitchen utensils. So now I'm just putting the apples in my big pot here and turning it on to medium to around between medium and high. I'm just adding in all the onion. It's about, I'd say about 1.5 cups worth. So I did chop the amount of onion in half in my recipe because I was supposed to triple it, but I didn't want as much onion in my chutney. So I'm just giving it a good mix and then we're going to start adding some more of the ingredients. Like I was saying, this is Ina Garten's recipe. I did get it online. I will link it in the description box below if you want to try it. So now we're going to try and put in some of the liquid in. This recipe calls for orange juice, 1 cup of orange juice per recipe. So I am putting in 3 cups here. I'm using a 1/2 cup measure in the video here. This orange juice gives the recipe such a really good flavor that I wasn't expecting. It balances the apple cider vinegar that I put in later perfectly. For the apple cider vinegar, you want to put in 3/4 cup per recipe. Next, you want to add about 1 cup of lightly packed brown sugar per recipe as well. I wanted to stir up all the ingredients and get them all nice and mixed together before I started adding the rest of the ingredients. Next, you want to add about 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt per recipe. I do plan to can this recipe, so using kosher salt is imperative. You don't want to use iodized salt in anything that you can. The products will turn color if you use iodized salt. Next, you want to add about 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds. This gives the recipe a flavor I wasn't expecting. I was a little leery about putting mustard seed in it, but I wanted to make it exactly how the recipe showed. So this was pretty good addition to this recipe. Next, you want to add 2 tablespoons of fresh minced ginger. I had ginger paste, so that's what I wanted to use in this recipe. Our family likes ginger, so I did add a tiny, like heaping spoonfuls rather than leveled out. So I think to your taste is probably best. As I'm watching this video back, I'm realizing that I think I only doubled the recipe and I didn't triple it. So keep that in mind. This recipe also calls for raisins, but the raisins don't get added until after the recipe is cooked. I end up using craisins, dried cranberries, rather than raisins. Our family isn't a big, huge fan of raisins, so I used dried cranberries instead, and it was delicious. It was a very good decision. You will see that later on in the video here. So I'm just giving you a close-up look at what it looks like before I start boiling it down. So you want to boil this mixture down for probably about 50 to 60 minutes. I ended up boiling it down so it was quite a bit thicker. It wasn't quite the texture that I wanted, so I ended up boiling it down for about an hour and a half. So this right here is about the 30-minute mark, and this is when I realized I forgot one of the ingredients. You're supposed to put in about 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. You could leave them out if you don't want a little hint of spice in there, but it adds a lot of flavor to the recipe and I highly recommend using it. I do add a little extra red pepper flakes just because that's our family's preference. So if you only want like a little small pinch, I think that would be perfectly fine. Or you could probably leave it out altogether. So this was the result at about just over an hour. It was almost an hour and a half. It was getting to a really nice, thick, boiled down texture. After you boil it down, you want to let it cool down a little bit. I would let it cool down for about 10 minutes or so, and then you want to add in your raisins. Here I'm adding cranberries instead, and this added another layer. This recipe has so many layers of flavor to it. It's delicious. I tried it on crackers afterwards. Crackers with some cream cheese, and it was so good. I have yet to try it on pork. I'm going to try it on some pork chops tonight, actually. But this recipe is so good. So this recipe can be stored many different ways. You could store this up in the freezer, put it in containers and probably freeze it for probably up to 6 months. Or you could put it in jars and store it in the refrigerator for probably a couple months. It does have vinegar in it, so it will help preserve it. Or you can do as I'm about to do, and I'm canning this chutney recipe. I put it into jars, and because of this is what it looks like after with the cranberries in it. Isn't that beautiful? You want to put it into jars and can it, water bath can it because of the high acidity that's in this, and water bath can it for about 20 minutes. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm about to fill my jars and water bath can this recipe. I was adding white vinegar to my cloth just to wipe the rims of the jars. This does have a lot of sugar in it, so I wanted to make sure that my cloth had some vinegar on it to make sure that there's no sticky residue on the rims of the jars so that the jars seal really well. When I'm filling the jars, I leave about a half an inch to 1/4 of an inch of headspace, just for enough so that it doesn't boil over and so the jars seal nicely. I end up getting about 8 half-pint jars, which is plenty. I think they'll last about a year. I'm looking forward to using this in my charcuterie boards and stuff like that on my cheese platters. I might even give away a couple jars at Christmas time for some gifts. Now I'm just giving the rims a wipe with my vinegar soaked cloth just to make sure all the sticky residue is off of the jars so they seal nicely. Then I'm going to take a chopstick and I'm going to slide it down the sides of the jar and in the middle and remove any of the air bubbles that are inside the jar. This is also an important step that you don't want to skip. It removes the bubbles from inside the product, and the product will last longer on your shelf after it's been canned. You don't want to use a knife or anything sharp. That can put micro fractures in the inside of your jars, and your jars might break in the canner. So make sure you use something with a soft edge like a chopstick or something plastic. So now I'm just going to put my jars into my canner, which is the water is already hot and warmed up. You want to put hot jars into hot water, otherwise they might crack. So, and then I'm going to set the timer and water bath can them for 20 minutes. So here, they're already out. I let it sit for about 10 minutes before I started to take these out. And then you take them out and you let them sit, and they should seal pretty quickly after taking them out. After canning something, I like to leave it in the spot that I take it out of the canner for overnight, and then in the morning I usually take the rings off and then write on the lids what it is that I've canned, and I usually put it away on the shelf. I try not to disturb the jars too much while they're cooling and making sure everything's set nice. So here is a close-up look of the finished canned product. Nice and colorful and beautiful. Highly recommend you guys making this recipe. It's delicious. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hope you guys try the recipe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.